So, back in 2008, when the entire global financial system was teetering on the edge of collapse, everyone was looking for a villain. And yeah, the banks, the regulators, those risky loans, they all got a piece of the blame. But what if a huge part of the problem was hiding in plain sight, right there on the balance sheets themselves? Today, we're going to investigate the secret role that accounting rules might have played in that massive financial meltdown. In the chaos right after the crash, a prime suspect was named almost immediately. The banking industry itself, through groups like the American Bankers Association, pointed the finger squarely at something called fair value accounting. They basically said it didn't just report the crisis, it actively poured gasoline on the fire. I mean, that's a pretty compelling accusation, right? The idea that a set of rules, designed to give us a clear picture, was actually spreading chaos. But is that what really went down? Let's find out. All right, first things first, we need to get to know our primary suspect, fair value accounting. What is it exactly, and what were the specific charges against it? So what is this fair value accounting, or FVA anyway? It's actually a pretty simple idea. Instead of listing an asset, say a stock or a bond, at the price you first paid for it, FVA says you have to list it at whatever it's worth on the open market right now. Think of it like this. It's a difference between saying, I bought my car for 20 grand 5 years ago, and if I sold my car today, I'd get 15 grand for it. It's about the now. So the case against FHVA really had two main arguments. First, critics said that in a falling market, constantly having to update your books with lower and lower prices just created mass panic and uncertainty. The second charge, and this was a really serious one, was that it created a dangerous domino effect, a contagion that could spread from just one or two struggling banks to the entire system. And this contagion theory got a super dramatic name, the death spiral. Here's the idea of how it worked. Step 1, the market gets weak and asset prices start to fall. Step 2, FBA rules force banks to write down the value of their assets to these new, lower prices. Step 3, those write-downs start eating away at the bank's capital, the cash cushion they're required to have. Step 4, to get their capital back up, the banks have to sell other assets, and fast. We're talking fire sales. And finally, step 5, these fire sales flood the market, which pushes prices down even more, forcing other banks to start the cycle all over again. It's this vicious, self-feeding loop. That's a pretty terrifying scenario. An accounting rule designed for transparency, accidentally kicking off a total market collapse. It sounds plausible, right? But did the evidence actually back it up? And here's the big plot twist. This is where the whole case against fair value accounting really starts to fall apart. When researchers actually crunched the numbers, they found something pretty shocking. The impact of all those write-downs on the bank's capital was, well, minimal. Long story short, there's just no hard evidence that FVA actually caused the kind of massive fire sales that the death spiral theory needs to be true. Okay, so if our main suspect has a solid alibi for the time of the crime, maybe we've been looking in the wrong place. What if the real problem wasn't what happened during the crisis, but what happened in the years leading up to it? Let's rewind the clock. We're going back to the years before 2008, when a huge housing bubble was quietly growing bigger and bigger, because this is where we find a really important hidden clue. So from about 2002 to 2006, the financial world was just on fire. Banks were scooping up and selling massive amounts of subprime mortgage securities. Everybody thought housing prices could only go up, and the market just soared to these crazy, unsustainable highs, right before the first cracks started to show in 2007. And here's the clue. During these boom years, fair value accounting was just doing its job, right? It was marking assets to whatever the market price was. But the problem was the market itself was irrational. It was a bubble. So FVA was letting banks book these gigantic profits based on inflated prices, profits that researchers now call illusory. So you see the twist? FVA wasn't the cause of the crash. It was the fuel for the bubble that came before it. This whole thing points to a much deeper, more subtle issue. It's really about the fundamental purpose of financial reporting, and a key job that it seems like almost everyone forgot about. See, financial reports are supposed to do two main jobs. The first is valuation, basically telling investors what a company's assets are worth at that moment in time. The second job is called stewardship, and that's about showing how well the company's management is actually using its resources to create real long-term value. And here is the absolute crux of the problem. The entire debate around FVA and the crisis, the finger pointing, the death spiral theory, it was all focused on that first job, the valuation role. Was the price on the books the right price? But everyone was completely ignoring that second, equally important question of stewardship. And that's a huge issue because FVA, while it might be great for showing current market prices, is actually a pretty lousy tool for measuring stewardship. Think about it. It rewards managers for just riding a market bubble up, which takes zero skill, instead of for things like careful lending and smart risk management, the actual job of running a bank well. It created an incentive to chase those easy, short-term, illusory gains instead of building real, stable value. So, after looking at all the evidence, where does that leave us? What's the final verdict on financial reporting's role in the 2008 crisis? Okay, let's break down the key takeaways. First, fair value accounting was not the smoking gun that caused the crash. That whole death spiral idea? The evidence just isn't there. The real problem seems to have started before the crisis when FVA helped report those massive illusory gains that pumped air into the bubble. And this all happened because the entire system got obsessed with valuation, the what's it worth now question, and totally forgot about the vital stewardship role of accounting. And because of that, there was nothing to put the brakes on all the excessive risk-taking. And that leaves us with one last really important question to think about. If the accounting rules themselves weren't the bad guy, maybe the real failure was in our priorities. Maybe the problem wasn't the rulebook, but a financial culture that got obsessed with measuring short-term market prices, and in the process, forgot how to measure the things that actually matter, things like good judgment, responsibility, and long-term sustainable stewardship.